News Panorama is a TV news magazine program that gives you the story behind the story.
It tells the stories the way they should be told by capturing the larger scale.
It deals with people's deep feelings on issues that, when brought to the fore, ultimately educates, informs and entertains.
News Panorama. Capture the larger scale.
It's been a week of UN celebrations, obstetric fistula, biodiversity, Children's Day celebration coming up on Saturday, and on the spot with the chairman, State Universal Basic Education Board, Senator Stephen Odey. Welcome and thanks for joining me on the program. I am Josephine Efanga. If you have just tuned in, you are watching News Panorama. Each year, between 50,000 to 100,000 women worldwide are affected by obstetric fistula, an abnormal opening between a woman's genital tract and her urinary tract or rectum. The development of obstetric fistula is directly linked to one of the major causes of maternal mortality, obstructed labor. The report. This year's International Day to End Obstetric Fistula was celebrated in Calabar with the theme 20 years on progress but not enough, act now to end fistula by 2030. The day, which was contained in the UN calendar, was part of the resolution of the General Assembly of the United Nations Determination and Social Marginalization in the Society. According to the UN bodies, obstetric fistula is usually a hole between the birth canal, bladder or rectum caused by a prolonged obstructed labor without access to timely quality medical treatment. Narrating the experience of the patient with obstetric fistula, a renowned gynecologist in the state, Dr. Albert Odey, disclosed that the situation usually leaves victims, who are women and girls, with the condition of leaking urine, feces, or both, and often leads to chronic medical problems. He explained that 90% of pregnant women suffering from fistula do not only end in stillbirth, but often leads to chronic medical problems such as depression, social isolation, and deepening poverty.
Talk to our political leaders because we need a political will, and once we can have a good setup from the primary healthcare system to the secondary and even the tertiary, we need to improve our skilled healthcare workers at the level of the primary health, because leaving a woman to stay for, to have a prolonged labor is, shouldn't be a thing that we should be seeing at this age. But unfortunately, you see a young girl who for the first time might be, the practices are still very common, especially in the northern part of the country. Young girls are getting married even before they see their menses, even before their menarche. They get married, and by the time they ovulate and start seeing their menses, they are pregnant spontaneously, and the pelvic organs, the pelvic bones are not well developed, and you subject these women to labor with unskilled hands.
Dr. Lema Solomon of Faculty of Chemical Science, University of Calabar, said prevention of fistula among pregnant women is that child delivery should be handled by trained professionals with midwifery skills. He explained that the universal access to modern contraception health system can reduce fistula by tracking prevalence, correcting gaps in care, and ensuring universal access to competent health workforce.
The mother in question with VVF, vesiculovaginal fistula, where she will now have urinary incontinence. She won't be able to control the bladder. Most times infections can come up, and most times it's for life. The life of that child is traumatized. She won't be able to pursue her career again with the VVF, and most times people from this segment of the society may not even be able to afford the surgery for correction due to the cost of the surgery. So we are calling on parents, we are calling on individuals, we are calling on government to bring this awareness, especially in our society.
Dr. Ona Simeon, who is also a medical expert, stressed the need for a national health plan to address gender discrimination and other factors making women and girls more vulnerable to maternal mortality and disease.
20 and above, the child, you have turned to adults and the child is going to get married and give birth. But in our society today, some people, because of poverty, they give their child to an early marriage, which bring a very health damage.
For CRBC News Panorama, Josephine Efanga reporting. Biodiversity refers to every living thing, including plants, bacteria, animals, and humans. Scientists have estimated that there are around 8.7 million species of plants and animals in existence. However, only 1.2 million species have been identified and described so far, most of which are insects. The details.
As part of efforts to ensure the involvement of the protection and sustenance of the natural resources from God, the General Assembly of the United Nations declared May 22 as International Day for Biological Diversity. The day was also designed by the global community to re-examine humans' relationship with the natural environment. Research has shown that despite technological advances, humans completely depend on healthy and vibrant ecosystem for survival. Commenting on the day, a senior lecturer from Faculty of Agriculture, Dr. Grace David, Faculty of Agric, UNICAL, said the theme for this year's celebration, From Agreement to Action, Build Back Biodiversity, was in compliance with the agreement signed in 2022 to create measures to stop and reverse the loss of nature by 2050.
If you are a living being in this life, you should be able to keep your environment clean, and because holiness is next to godliness. Our common sickness is malaria, and from what do cause that, it's bites of a mosquito and all of that. So if the environment is not being kept properly, I strongly believe that mosquito will be everywhere, and in other words, you will fall a victim of any kind of disease called malaria.
The environment conducive for habitation. Otherwise, we begin to have health challenges. When you look around Cross River State recently, you will discover how refuse disposal has been affecting the impact of refuse disposal on the society. And as a result of it, the entire place is messed up. And the ripple effect of it has to do with the fact that health is affected and we begin to have several diseases around.
An environmental researcher, Dr. Sunday Eswabanga, explained that biological diversity resources are pillars upon which people build civilizations, while loss of it threatens all, including living things, health, and could expand zoonosis disease, which is usually transmitted from animals to humans.
Men, as in their wisdom, have abused the environment, maybe because of lack of knowledge, lack of information. And today we are suffering from the abuse of environment. Look at how the environment is now. We are suffering because men have not really taken time to understand how this environment should be managed. So it has today now people are suffering from their own mistake ignorantly. So men are not really taking care of the environment, and that's why we are going through what we're going. Look at the way the environment is very, very hot. Why? Because people are not actually taking into consideration how the environment should be put in place.
Others who also urged their minds drew attention to a growing recognition that biological diversity is a global asset of tremendous value to future generations.
Environment is basically the sum total of living things and non-living things and their effects, on the habitat. So that literally, that's what environment means.
Reporting for CRBC News Panorama, I am Ifyowan Ipe-Ita.
Over now to On the Spot with the Chairman, State Universal Basic Education, SUBEB, Senator Stephen Odey. He takes us into the activities of SUBEB over the past years of Governor Ben Ayade's administration. This is News Panorama. Today we are in SUBEB to speak to the Chairman, SUBEB, Distinguished Senator Stephen Odey. He's going to throw more light on the achievement of SUBEB and the Governor Ben Ayade's led administration. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show, News Panorama.
Welcome to my office.
Okay, sir. So we've heard so much of the achievements you've done in the state SUBEB. Sir, can you let us into SUBEB from 2015 to date, sir?
Thank you for starting by commending us that you've heard so much about our achievements in SUBEB. That wouldn't have been possible without the support and contribution of His Excellency, the Governor of Cross River State, Senator Professor Ben Ayadikon. That is the man that has made it possible for us to achieve what we have achieved. And from 2015, when I came on board, of course, on the rescue mission, the state was unable to access the matching grant with the Universal Basic Education Commission from 2012 to that 2015. And so when we came on board, there was a backlog of matching grant because the state was unable to pay the counterpart funds for those years. But His Excellency graciously approved money for us. And we started hitting the ground from day one. And today I can tell you authoritatively that we've surpassed all other executive chairmen that have been here because we've been able to execute about 639 projects. And out of that 639 projects, only about 30 is ongoing. All others completed and handed over to various principals and headmasters in our various schools across the 18 local government of Cross River State. And I think that is a huge success because we've been able to even assess our matching grant up to 2022, which other states have not even. So Cross River State was even the first state to assess for 2022. And so for that reason, I can tell you that we have been rated very high by the Universal Basic Education Commission.
Having said what you've been able to achieve so far, what has been your challenges in running the Universal Basic Education Board?
Well, there's so much to be done in the system. And you know, education is very key, particularly basic education, where I've superintended, or I'm still superintending up to today. There is this issue of inadequate funding because you need, the schools are so much. We have over 8,114 schools across the state. And for you to intervene in those schools, we are very desirous of making our system very digital in nature based on the global practices like we have. So that has created a huge, trying to come out from the analog system where teachers are used to only the chalk and the blackboard. We introduced magnetic boards, other writing system. If you go to some of our schools, we have computers, we have solar system, which is of course a complete deviation from the past. So that requires a lot of funding. And then we are also bedeviled by a lot of unprofessional and unqualified teachers when we came on board. That is why we had to embark on personnel audit. And I can tell you, we uncovered about 1,525 or 25 or 27 teachers with fake certificate, which of course we accordingly demoted them. Because if what you had that took you to the grade level you were, as it were then, is fake, we have to bring you down to what you possess. And I think that has brought a lot of sanitization in the system, and everybody is alert now that you don't dare to come into the system because by our standard, education is supposed to be the center of excellence. So we don't need quacks here and those who are very mischievous to come and corrupt our children and all that. So we set example, and I believe that my successor that will come on back will stabilize what we have, the foundation we have already laid here for that.
Okay, sir, talking about teacher certification, we know that some years back you went around across the state to ensure that you screened some teachers, and then those that were not active in class, teachers started sitting up. Do you have any fear that when you leave office, if someone who's not proactive like you come on board, that these teachers will go back to the time where they were alleged to be very lazy and selling things in school?
No, like I mentioned earlier, I said that I believe strongly that my successor will sustain the foundation we have laid here, because the names of those teachers that were caught with fake certificates are already documented. About 2 or 3 months ago, I still caught about 3 teachers again with fake certificates. So I believe that there are still more. And just like you have in primary school, I believe they also have in secondary school. And I believe that whoever takes over from us, there should be a synergy where they should work and make sure the system is riddled out of this quack, because it is a professional area that everybody needs to be up and doing. Education, for you to have a qualitative education and quality education, the teachers must also be of standard. Otherwise, you won't be able to meet that demand. And so, for me, I think I'm proud, and I can say it, that whatever people say, I think Ayade has been the best governor Cross River State has ever produced and has intervened in the education sector. Just like yesterday when we commissioned the Teachers Continuous Training Institute, it is also to update teachers' knowledge again. Teachers who are already teachers needed to be trained. Training and retraining should be a continuous process. There are so many methodologies out there that some of them that were employed about 15, 20 years ago have not even gone anywhere to update their knowledge. So the establishment of the Teachers Continuous Training Institute by Governor Ayade, which of course was officially commissioned, a world-class institution where you can't find that in any parts of this country. I think we need to celebrate the governor for taking teachers into the topmost priority in his administration.
So I commend you and Governor Ben Ayade for that Teachers Training Institute, because as we all know, primary school is the basic. If a child is not trained in the primary level and you're not sound during that level, it's very difficult for you to pick up in the secondary level. Okay, sir, so we know that you've mentioned about so many projects you've done. Can you highlight some of these across the state so that people will not just hear the numbers, they'll be able to know that, okay, like in the south, in the central, like we have one social school in Yala.
I just sympathize with those who don't do thorough analysis of issues. You can criticize, but to manage a sensitive office as I am is a difficult task. You may criticize, you don't even have the parameter how we distribute our infrastructure. There is no intervention we do in this state without any local government being touched. If we are not able to give you 6 classroom blocks, we are giving you computers, we are giving you borehole. Something must get to each of the local government. Of course, how much will you have to intervene equally? And don't forget, take for instance, Calabar South has maybe 25 schools. If I'm giving 2 projects, to take for instance where I come from, because they will criticize I'm from Yala. Calabar South has 25 schools, right?
Yes, sir.
And Yala local government has over 1,000 schools. So when you are trying to ration the infrastructure, you cannot ration the same. Even in terms of teaching requirements, the number of teachers in that area is more because they have more schools. And of course, there are some places that there will be other intervention because we have records. We look at our records. We carry out assessment needs of every school before we give you what you deserve. Even though we cannot do all at the same time, I think Providence will remember that I've been very fair and just in this place. But if you want to criticize, come and look at our need assessment. We will tell you Calabar South has 25 schools. And then maybe Ogoja local government has 90 schools. And then in the distribution of infrastructure, if I'm giving 3, if I give Ogoja 3, I should go and give Calabar South 3. It's not an issue of local government. It's the issue of the number of schools that you have, number of teachers or pupils that you have. You are providing infrastructure based on the number of students and staff that require those infrastructure. You are not providing based on local government. I don't know whether you understand my analysis.
Yes, yes, sir.
Do you understand? If I'm providing 6 classroom blocks to a school with a population of 1,000 pupils, and I go to a school that has a population of less than even 100, you don't expect me to go and put 6 classroom blocks, an empty classroom for it. So when you are criticizing, you don't even know the parameter that we are using. Don't forget that I'm a college. I have a bachelor degree in education before I dabble into laws and other professional areas. So I know that there is nothing you do in this world that people will not criticize. And I beg those who are criticizing now, if they sit here, they will do worse than what I have done.
Okay, so sir, finally, what do you have to say to Cross-Riverians, especially teachers who think that, okay, because Senator Stephen Odey is not in Subeb after now, that they have to do some dubious things? What do you have to say? What advice do you have for teachers and Cross-Riverians at large?
I believe strongly that the teachers that I have seen, and from the way they have adopted or adjusted to my style, living here, even if anybody wants to influence them negatively, they will remember that once upon a time, Senator Stephen Odey or Dr. Stephen Odey was here and uncovered all the negative things we do. Therefore, I won't go back to those negative vices we perpetrated for the interest of our children. I think there will be the person to even chase the person in a way that they are now reformed and more civilized and enlightened than never before. Because the sensitization I've given to crossover teachers have never taken place like that before. So I believe that when people listen constantly to you preaching that the right thing should be done, I think morally they are already converted.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
Thank you very much for staying with us. Don't forget that every child has the right to education. The State Universal Basic Education Board has given every child the right to go to school. The schools all have facilities where your child can learn and achieve quality education. Don't keep that child at home. Send that child to school to learn. The basic education is important for every child. Please stay tuned as we move over to other programs. I remain Josephine Efanga. That is all we have on our lineup on News Panorama today. Thanks for being a part of the show. I am Josephine Efanga.